two.
We're good.
David, it's good to see you again. It's been a while.
It has.
It has been. We did a few interviews over the years, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
And they've always been interesting. We've always managed to pull something out of the bag. And of course, things have changed considerably because now that you are, in fact, with NZ First. Before
Yes.
you were on your own as doing your regional council work, and
Yep.
now you're actually embarking in a new direction. So basically, David Wilson is M. It's
Yeah.
going to be it's good to have you on board.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you, MJ.
So look, tell us just briefly, just walk us into how you decided and your journey so far as part of New
Right.
Zealand First.
Well, I've actually run for New Zealand First and been close but no cigar for, this is my fourth election. And so this last one, I was number 9 on the list and we got 8 in Parliament. And then Tanya Unkovic decided that being an MP was not for her. And she went back to what she's good at. And they called me up. So here I am.
Fantastic. So, and why NZ First? Why have you decided to go for NZ First?
Yeah, really good question, MJ. Look, for years, maybe a couple of decades, I've been heavily involved in regional economic development. And so that's been my game for all of this century anyway. So I spent a lot of time in those kinds of spaces. And about 10 years ago, a guy called Fletcher Tabuto came and said to me, look, we're trying to ramp up our policy around regional development and regional economic development. Do you want to give us a hand? And I said, yes. Anybody that is trying to improve what we do in that space, I'm there. So that's how it kind of started. And then the PGF followed and they put me onto the advisory board for the PGF and so on and so forth. And here I am now on the inside looking out rather than the outside looking in.
Well, that's a good space to be. Very good space.
Yeah.
My microphone's a little bit crackly. Let me just sort that out for a second.
No worries.
There we go. Sorry about that. So
no problem.
So what regional development? It's a big subject, David.
Yeah.
And it's something that I believe will save the nation.
Well, you get the agreement from me on that.
Because it's going to pull the country up by the ears, really, isn't it?
Yes. Basically, it's kind of, if you want the nation to succeed from an economic growth point of view, one region at a time, and you add up all those regions, then the nation succeeds. And leaving regions behind is not a good idea. It's not a good option. So we have to pull everybody up and work from within those regions to get the best we can for them. Yeah. So that's the game.
And what do you consider to be some of the pillars that will move that forward?
Oh, good. There's another good question. Look, each region is different. The Southland's not the same as Northland. And when you look at their various assets, their climate, soil, fertility, what the current economic structure is, they're not all the same, they're different. And so you tend to find that regions end up sometimes through accident, but mainly through what they have in terms of what they're dealing with, that they start to have specializations that are really strong for them. And even though you might say it's horticulture, you're not growing the same things in Southland that you are in Northland, right? And so it comes down to actually taking advantage of what those things are in the mix of those things. Of course, you've got different populations as well, different levels of education, different facilities, different institutions, different cultures in some cases. And all of those things you've got to work within the region to take advantage of those looking forward. And economic development is not economics. Economics is part of it. It's part of understanding it. But when you think about what you have to actually bring together in terms of regional economic development, partnerships, relationships, understanding the structure of the economy, the soil fertility, the topography, there's just so many angles in there, even down to the levels of trust. You go to some places and there's not much trust between different groups, and you go to others and there is, and all of a sudden you're working on a different level at a different basis. So you've just got to do it one community, one iwi, one hapu, one region at a time across the whole of New Zealand, in my view. And that's what the Provincial Growth Fund did. It worked on those levels.
Yes. Now, New Zealand has seen a significant amount of challenges in this arena, and largely because local business has been hollowed out.
Yeah, that's very true. There's a backdrop to all of that, isn't it? It's a national backdrop as well.
It's a national
MJ.
backdrop, and it's a problem. It's a major problem because what we've ended up is basically a shell of a country. As opposed to, I mean, look, if you want to, you and I both know, you go and have a look at the productivity index, and it hasn't even had a heartbeat blurb for 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
So you look at that, and that is probably our most reliable KPI.
Yeah.
Looking at that, and you're saying, well, okay, we've got a problem. Houston, we've got a problem.
Yeah.
What is that problem?
What do you
think it is?
Yeah, I think it's the backdrop is the way that we've viewed this and how we build our economy and how we grow our economy. And as Winston often says, when Singapore was first brought together in terms of a country, New Zealand provided welfare to them. You think about that for a minute.
That's amazing.
Now, when you compare those two nations,
yeah,
it's completely the other way around. Their GDP per cap, their sovereign wealth funds, how they manage their economy, how they manage all of that is completely different from us because we took a different path, and that path was neoliberalism. And now we're reaping, unfortunately, the downsides of a prolonged period, 40 odd years, of sticking to this way of doing things. And it's a shame, really, because parties on the right and on the left, the two major parties, have kind of stuck to this game. It's the same playbook. It's leaving everything to the market and hoping that it'll all work out. And it doesn't. Yeah. And that's the backdrop that we really worry about. Yeah.
Okay. So if we pause there for a moment, because if you want a different outcome, you've got to change the inputs.
Correct.
So who's monitoring the output, and who is actually saying, hey, this isn't working? Look, guys, we've actually, who's keeping the scorecard here? And what are we actually what are we measuring ourselves against? Do we have a national strategic policy that goes beyond 3 years? Are we just a ship lost at sea, right? Left to the currents and saying eventually we'll find land and water? I hope.
Yeah, to coin the Brian Easton phrase, isn't it? It's a ship in a raging sea, and we're getting tossed and turned around, and we are. And the thing is,
and I'll just add one more thing, and this is why really good that you brought up Singapore. I mean, that's a great country to actually compare when you're talking about exactly what we're talking about right now and making that comparison. Yeah. So please go ahead.
So this is the reason neoliberalism, or their approach to it, how we run our economy from a political point of view, the political economy of that, is why Winston left the National Party. In a nutshell, he didn't believe that this was the right way to go. And he looked to places like Singapore to sort of say, look, these guys don't have any problem building up their own sovereign wealth and making it an asset for all of us. Whereas the others just want to leave everything to the market and corporatism and what we've suffered from greatly is, and this tends to happen when you look at a very strong neoliberal political economy, it tends towards monopoly or duopoly or oligopoly. So we've got an oligopoly in the banks, we've got a duopoly in the supermarkets, a duopoly in building materials, although hopefully some of the legislation that's just gone through might address some of that. But at the moment, that's what we've got. Supermarkets, banks, and then this whole neoliberal approach gave us the Bradford reforms in energy, the gentailers. Now, the whole idea of that was we sold off half of our production, and now it's actually more like 60% to the private sector. So we have 4 gentailers, 3 of which have 50% owned by the government, and 1 which is completely owned by the market. So that was meant to give us more competition. That was the idea of the neoliberal changes, the Bradford reforms. That was meant to give us more competition. Those 4 fighting each other. What have we got? We've got an oligopoly. How's it worked out for you? What's your power bill look like this month? You know, what has competition supposed done to give us cheap power? You know, and it's what we built this nation on, was cheap, reliable, sustainable power, geothermal, hydro. We built it. Your grandfather did, my grandfather did. They built that stuff. It's ours, and we gave it away. We sold it away.
And what we've ended up with is the government's working for the corporates.
Correct.
Rather than people.
And so we've got high prices because they're oligopolistic, and sorry for the word, them all working together as a cartel has meant that we get high prices. And this is the bizarre thing. The pricing mechanism at the moment basically slides towards what is the most expensive source of power for them all. And that's what they pass on to the retailers, some of whom just happen to be owned by them as well. So who's kidding who here? You know, so you're telling me that all the retail here is a really good market working in the way it should work, keeping prices down?
No, it isn't. Obviously, it's not working. So we've got a few more minutes before we wrap up. It's only
that was fast.
Okay. I know. We're just going to keep them fairly short. But now, as far as NZ First, tell me, what are they? Just if you could just summarise very, very quickly, how are we going to become productive? What are they saying?
Right.
What's their policy?
Right. So those 4 things that I talked to you about, that monopolistic behaviour's got to stop. We're paying way too much for the cost of our capital with our mortgages and our overdrafts because there's a monopoly there. Those are the basics. But what's happened around the rest of the world is they've suddenly realised that actually security in our supply chain, security in our food, security in our power, security in what we pay for to support our industry, how we actually build our own industry is utmost. And it's funny, it's like the rest of the world has suddenly figured out that New Zealand First was right. Building up our own stuff and selling it to the rest of the world and owning it and taking the benefits from that is actually the right way to go.
So that sounds like sovereignty.
Yes. Exactly. What's wrong with that?
I think it's the
best. We
don't
even own a bank. It's like Norway, $2.2 trillion sovereign wealth fund. They own a bank called Norske Bank. It manages that fund.
Yeah.
It's like they own the bank, they own the sovereign fund. There's 5 million people. Come on.
Well,
we've got 5 million people. What did we do? We sold the banks.
We sold everything. It's been hollowed out. So, and for 40 years, you're right. For 40 years, we were going along the same course. It's not working. It's not working. It's not working. And it's time. And that's what's so great about what the New Zealand First is doing, is that they're actually trying very, very hard to say, hey, people, wake up.
Stop. Yeah. Turn this around.
Working. We've got to turn it around. Otherwise, it's going to be too late.
Yep.
And what does
back
that mean?
Ourselves.
Third world country.
Correct. We need to back ourselves, and we can. We were one of the richest in the world, and we can be again.
And we can.
Yeah.
David, it's always a pleasure, and we'll come back and maybe we do a few more, make this a regular thing.
Not a problem, MJ. It's just a pleasure to come and talk to you.
Fantastic.
Very insightful. Thank you, mate.
Thank you. Likewise. Cheers for now.